Thanks, Sophie. Great question. So I'm going to answer this in multiple videos, but I'm posting the question here. So regarding patient advocacy, so this is about patient advocacy. If you're interested in this, watch this video and share the video. Please like, follow me, and also come on over to YouTube and subscribe to my channel there, where I do much more substantial videos and can go more in depth. And I do collaborations with other patient advocates, people working in the medical field, and I've got a lot of videos over there that you can take a look at. And so the chain of command. So let's talk about what is the chain of command in a hospital setting. So you've got now most times when you're in a hospital, right, who you're seeing or who you're like front facing is the immediate nurse, right? The staff that are right there on that unit. Or maybe you're in surgery and you're dealing with maybe somebody in pre-op, could be a pre-op nurse, could be a registration person, could be a tech, the anesthesiologist, surgeon, etc. So chain of command is kind of going to be the same no matter what department you're at in the hospital. So I'm going to just say that very broadly, but let's assume we're talking about a standard inpatient unit. You're on med surg, it's called oncology, orthopedic, it could be critical care, step down unit. You could be in an LTAC facility within a hospital, or that is part of a hospital as well. So you're going to have the nurse who's assigned to take care of you each shift, right? That is your number one point person for your care. That is the individual. As a registered nurse, it is our responsibility to be a patient advocate and to make sure that we are assessing you. We are assessing your response to medications, to treatments, to things that are ordered by the providers. Could be a nurse practitioner, could be a DO, MD. And it's our job to also kind of foresee what you might need and to be anticipating your needs and communicate that upwards to the providers, or across, we should say, as we do collaborate. You know, it's a little more of an equality-based system these days in hospitals than it used to be. And it's our job to also notice things that and communicate that. So it could be a lab result, something that comes back that, you know, the providers have a lot of patients to see. Typically nurses are understaffed and have way too many patients. And I'll say sometimes even 4 patients is too much. 3 patients might be too much. It really depends on what we call the acuity of a patient. How sick is somebody and how many needs do they have, right? If I've got 2-3 patients that require hours of wound care every day, or have multiple IV antibiotics and maybe riders of potassium, magnesium, K-phos, other things that they need to get, and I'm in that room quite a bit, and then on top of that, I've got their family members asking a lot of questions, which of course they will, and that's their right. All of these things add up to time. You know, that we say in nursing, right, the seconds add up to minutes, minutes add up to hours, and we only have 12 hours per shift. And then you're hoping to pass on whatever's needed and information about the patients to the next shift. And it's this game of telephone that goes on. So, and hopefully nothing gets lost. Hopefully things expand in that game of telephone, passing on information. So that's a little bit about the structure, not necessarily chain of command, but just to understand how the hospital works, how the front line works. So every unit has a charge nurse. That is usually just somebody who's a staff nurse who's been assigned to do charge. It might be a permanently assigned charge nurse role, but it's basically a staff nurse who has decided that or been given the misfortune of having to run the unit for the day for that shift. So they're the one who's basically overseeing the operations of the patients and making sure that when new patients come in, they're assigned to the nurses somewhat equally. If there's a code or something, somebody deteriorates, that they're able to address that they are often the point person to a certain degree. There may also be a manager of that unit who's there Monday through Friday. There will be a director of that unit, and that director may have multiple units they are the director of, or just that unit. It really all depends. And so we're talking about units that, you know, I would say probably most hospital units are 20 to 40 beds, something like that, or rooms. So some are private, some are not private, shared rooms. It just depends on the setup. Or ICU, critical care, usually a lot smaller, but we could have in a large hospital very large ICUs, critical care units, progressive care units, etc. And then hospitals are then divided into what I would say are divisions. So maybe the surgery line is got some kind of senior leader that oversees, recovery room. They could oversee the radiology department, procedural department, surgery. Maybe they've got some other smaller departments. And then you've got usually critical care services. You might have, which may be the ER and critical care. They might be separated. You've got the med surg units. You might have an acute rehab, LTAC, like I said. So there's like a senior director oftentimes. And again, every hospital's different. Sometimes there are not all these layers. Sometimes there's many, many layers. So you've got senior directors who have directors under them, multiple departments, and there might only be, and let's say a 300, 400 bed hospital, 200 to 400 bed hospital, you may have anywhere from 5, 6 to 10 senior directors. Now, then they all report directly to either a person called the director of nursing or the vice president of nursing. This is the top RN in the hospital, part of the C-suite, and along with the CEO, the chief financial officer, the chief medical officer, maybe one or two other people. This is a small group of usually less than 5 people that are really in charge of running the hospital. They are what we call the C-suite. So that is the chain of command. So it's always important to understand, like, who do you report to? I've had patients and family members, well, who do you report? Who's your manager? I want to talk to the manager, or I want to talk to the charge nurse. Well, I am the charge nurse. I am the manager. I am this, right? And I'm, or it's a weekend and often it's going to be the charge nurse is it, right? And there's a house supervisor. So in another orbit, so imagine like that's this lateral system. There's a house supervisor every 12 hours, 24/7, who is also kind of like a charge nurse. It's hard to explain what a house supervisor does because they do different things in every hospital, but overall, they are the ones that are kind of on the ground. Their role is the patient-facing part of the hospital for the whole hospital and putting out fires here and there that may, especially at night and weekends, so they are usually the top leader that is available. And I don't know, it's kind of a thankless job. It can be a very difficult job. I will say people who do it well, and if you're an RN, you know what I'm talking about. There are amazing, amazing house supervisors that you're just like, man, they are a great resource. They're the person at 11 at night, I need a piece of equipment I need a supply, I got to call them because they're the ones who can get me what I need, or maybe they're the ones who people call in sick to, etc. But they are the problem solver for the hospital after hours. Now, there is also after hours a executive on call, so administrator on call, AOC is what they call this person. So that is the administrator on call. So that's one of those 5 or 6 C-suite people who is the administrator on call. So they are the person to be reached if absolutely somebody in top leadership needs to be reached after hours, again, night times, weekends, holidays, etc. So that's the best way to explain that. I know that this is a bit of a long video explaining this. I'm sorry, but there's no short way to answer this. So understand that chain of command and know who those people are. And oftentimes that information might be on the website or posted up in the hospital somewhere. But it's important to understand who the chain of command is, because otherwise you'll just go in a circle. And as you noticed, I mentioned nowhere that patient relations is anywhere in the chain of command, because they're not.